On the Wado Radio Show.
Yes, it's DJ Wado. It's the Wado Radio Show. It's more than music. It's ministry. And I'm happy to say we have a young man on the line with us that everybody seems to mess up his name, including Lecrae when he was on the show not too long ago.
Yeah.
But Ty Brasel's with us, man. What's up, my brother?
What's going on, DJ? Honored to be here, of course, and just excited for, today and moving forward with the new album, man. It's a big day for sure.
Absolutely, man. Absolutely, bro. First, let's start there because the title Young T is this the alias, and why the title, bro?
I would say so. One thing about the title is that it goes along with the story. So the album is a storyline album, and people kind of have to listen to the album to see really why is it called Young T, because the cover art, the music, everything goes in alignment with each other. And so I really I'm gonna let people hear the album so they can decipher what Young T is, but it's also, like you said, it's definitely an alias and something that just kind of picked up over time. I kind of had some friends calling me Young T, and then I just started calling myself Young T, and I was like, it's thick. So, nothing too deep,
Well, I mean, it's the thing, bro. Like, this felt like much more of a concept album from Cloud9 Raps, and
right,
you could really, from my vantage point, this is my first time like meeting you, but from my vantage point as an artist, like I told you on the text, like, bro, like this is way different than what I expected in a good way. You know what I mean? Like you totally stepped your game up on this joint, man. What what kind of contributed to that growth process for you between those projects?
So Cloud9 Rap, that was January 2015, and then I put out the EP 1994 last summer, which I think at the end of the day, like if an artist is kind of like destined to do music, like a lot of times they'll show early flashes of potential, and they just won't be there yet. And a lot of people they'll either see the potential or they'll just say, nah, they're just another artist who's trying. But I think in the beginning stages of my career, I just think I wasn't there yet. I was still developing my voice. I was, I was growing and maturing as a believer and as a man of God, and in my understanding of the Word and who God is and who I am. And so I think over time, as I continuously wrote, I've been writing every day. I think, I would take breaks here and there, but I write all the time. And a lot of times the stuff I write, it doesn't get put out. It's just, me just trying new stuff. And I think the more I write, the more sharp my craft becomes, and the more that I study, not just the Bible, but just everything, like learning and increasing in knowledge and wisdom. It really pays off in the music, and you can tell when somebody has been, just maturing as a person and as an artist. And I think this album is the closest thing to a culmination of all that work that I've put in musically and just in life, and it kind of spills over into this album for sure.
Sure. Who all work with you on this project?
So I've got I've got multiple producers on the album. So all the producers were producers from online. They have their own websites, and you can buy their beats. You can either lease them or buy them. And so I bought some beats from some different guys online who I've had relationships before in the past. Like the guy who produced the intro was the same guy that produced New School for me, which was one of my biggest songs to date until this album. But so I've got a few familiar faces on the production side and some that are new, and people will see those names soon as well. I'm gonna shout all them out soon. But I also had, feature wise, I had Jay Monty, I had Keyshawn Furlow, Paris Korean, Mo Jackson, and these are all people who I have real life relationships with. And so these aren't just artists that I brought together like Like me and Jay Money, you know, we're brothers, and same thing with Paris and Keyshawn. It's just like it made sense for me to bring them on, and it felt very organic. And for the people who haven't heard the album yet, you know, there is a storyline and there's skits and everything in the album was very real and organic to my actual life. I wasn't just making up stuff. So those are real life situations with real life friends that I just put in my album. So
I feel like I'm gonna have to go back and listen to this album some more because I really like this felt very autobiographical to me. So kind of hearing you talk between the lines though is making me feel like maybe there's more to it that I missed.
Yeah, so that's funny you said that. That's the first time I've heard that, but that's at the end of the day, it's, you know, that's kind of what it is. It's very autobiographical. It's me talking about my life and right now, past, present, and future, my fears, my, you know, things to give me joy. It really is. That was a real good explanation. I haven't thought about it like that, but it really is.
Yeah. Do you like? Let me go here, bro. Like, take me to, because you mentioned the east side of Memphis several times throughout this, man. Take us back to like your childhood, man, and just what that whole space is like. You know?
Yeah, absolutely. So I was born in Memphis, Tennessee, and I grew up right on the edge of Memphis, Tennessee, in a city called Olive Branch, Mississippi. And I lived on a road called State Line Road, which I mentioned in the song Gold. So Riverdale and State Line. So State Line, half of the road is Mississippi, and the other half is Memphis. It's literally like steps away from each other. Like I could step outside and just walk across to Memphis or be in Mississippi. So I kind of had the unique experience of living in a middle class home from, you know, born to Caucasian people, while at the same time when I'm growing up, all my friends were 90 to 95% of my friends were minorities. And so I had a very unique experience growing up because I got involved selling drugs when I was like 15, and I started abusing drugs around 16. But at the same time, from the outside, it seems like I have this normal home, this normal family. And so while at the same time that, you know, that was cool and it contributed a lot to who I am, I was around 15 and 16, I started leaving the house, and I was not home often at all. I would be on Winchester, you know, I would be over there off of Ross Road. I'd be over there off of Quince and Riverdale, and me and my homies, you know, they had spots in different places where we would, in the PT, they had different places where we would track out of and where we would make our money and hang out, and where we would, you know, do drugs and party and this is all while I'm, you know, I'm on the football team. I'm leading this normal life, so it seems at school. But every time I would leave, I was leading a double life, so to speak. And so my parents and them, they didn't know it. So my parents, my real parents, they split when I was 8, and my pops, he moved out of the city. He moved close, but he was out the city, and my mom got remarried. But I'd say, so they didn't know about my double life and me, you know, going and selling drugs after school and, you know, getting into drugs and living that whole lifestyle. But one thing I will say is that it created a very unique experience for me personally, because I got to see through the perspective of so many different eyes. Like, all my friends, you know, I used to hang out at their houses, and I would grow close to their families. You know, their families felt like my family. And so I got to see the struggles, the everyday life of people outside of my home. And it changed my perspective, because I was able to see how other people, what life in America is like for them. And I got to see what it was like for me and for my family. And so it really shaped me in a very, very, like, just a weird way. It was just something that God did where I had both worlds in me, and so I kind of was like, I guess you could say I was, God brought me up to be a voice, to speak to people of my time and give them a different perspective, because a lot of people are not able to see from a different perspective unless you've seen the way that other people have to live life in America. And I know I may have went a little too deep with it, but that was my life. It was a real crazy upcoming. But East Memphis was my kind of birthed me in a sense as to who I really am, my personality, my just the way that I operate, my music. And so I have a very special place in my heart for Mississippi, but definitely Memphis as well.
What made you get into that whole space of selling drugs and using drugs, given the kind of background that you grew up in and the community that you grew up in?
Well, the thing was, so in Mississippi, like where I stayed with my mom and there, like in the school I went to, like it was definitely like, it was pretty like mixed down the middle as far as like demographic splits and stuff like that. So like a lot of the friends that I met, who I ran with in Memphis, their folks stayed in Olive Branch as well, or either their folks stayed in Memphis and we would meet up and stuff like that. So when we got up, like it was just over time, a lot of my friends, their cousins were OGs, and they're big homies, are their big brothers. And once I come around, when I started coming around, I was just, it just became part of it, like a family. And I wasn't affiliated with any gangs or anything, but in a sense, there was a sense of brotherhood and family amongst the people that I used to run with. And so when the more I started coming around, I just, you do what the people who you look up to do. And that what they did was they sold drugs, they did drugs, they partied, and they got women. And that was kind of like the goal of life: money, power, women, drugs, And so at the end of the day, that was all I knew, and that was what I looked up to at the time. And so I wanted to dive as deep into that as I could. And obviously, since I'm a hip-hop artist now, I was very engulfed into the hip-hop culture, and I was very, and that was from a young age. But just growing up, as I got older, I really got deep into hip-hop, because hip-hop was a big part of my life and part of what brought me through and grew me up, because when my father left, we were still cool, but I was always looking for affirmation. I was always looking for someone to guide me, and I was always looking for someone to look up to at the end of the day. And rappers and my homeboys, big brothers, and those guys, those were the people who I looked up to. And so, that was what they told me to do. And so that I just followed through.
When I was going to say, I mean, hip hop has always been a big part of. When I think of Memphis, that's the first thing I think of is music. You know what I mean? Like, I think of 8 Ball, MJG, like just that whole lineage that came out of that. You know what I mean? So, I definitely get that, bro. At what point did the Lord come into the equation in your life?
So I was raised in church, but I wasn't militant towards it, but I was just nonchalant. I was,
like
especially
me.
when I was young.
That was like
me. I wasn't militant or anything, but I just didn't care. And as I grew older, and when I got to middle school, or no, I was a little younger than that. I don't even remember what happened, but I know I had a life experience when I was around 9, I want to say. And I told my mom I wanted to accept Christ, and then I wanted to be baptized and all that. And so we did that. And then in middle school, my grandpa died, and I had my first real experience with God, because I missed my grandpa and I wanted to talk to him. And I felt like if I prayed to God, that he would talk to him for me, or if I prayed to God, that I could at least find some type of peace in the situation. So when I was in middle school, that was the first time I really was learning to pray and to depend on God through tragedy and through hardship. But so middle school, that was right before before I turned 13, 14, 15 and started getting off into other stuff. But before that, I had already met God. So at the end of my high school, after my senior year, after I had already finished high school, and I'm still, I'm talking about I was smoking a blunt when this happened, but I just had this encounter with God. It was like school was over. It was summer. I was, long story short, I was just in a big, bad bind, and I needed God badly. And he showed up in a major way, in one of those ways where you could say that had to be God. Like, what else could that have been if that wasn't supernatural? You know what I mean? And so I had an experience like that after high school, and that's when I really started believing for real, like, that God loves me and that I have a relationship with him. But what happened was I went to Ole Miss. I went to college. I was supposed to go to Memphis, but I didn't turn my papers in time because I was lazy. I was being lazy, and I missed the deadline date. So I ended up going to Ole Miss, where I started rapping. Me and my homeboy Josh, we started a group called Comfortable Kids, and I fell back into drugs and partying and that whole lifestyle, everything that comes with it. My first year down at Ole Miss, and that's where we started rapping, and we built a following. And at the end of my first year at Ole Miss, that's when I had this experience with God where he told me he wanted me to use my gifts for his glory, and that I was doing it for myself, and that that's not what life is about, and that I'm missing out on true joy. And so, it was over time. It was nothing to just, there was like this one point where everything came to a sudden stop. It was just like over a period of years and years of God continuously showing faithfulness, continuously giving grace through my failures, and continuously when I would run from him. And still, when I run, it's just always God giving grace and bringing me back. So
that's deep, bro. That's deep. I mean, it's always like whenever you can kind of, they say hindsight is 20/20. Like, it's always amazing when you can look back over those period of times, and either you had doubt or you were running from God, and to see that he was still pursuing you no matter what. And he had a plan for you, and he worked all those things out, even with, what ended up going to Ole Miss and all of that stuff. Like, that's inspiring, man. It's encouraging, bro.
Yeah, man. No, that's real, for real, because a lot of people may not have experienced what it's like to really get that true grace when you run from God. But I've definitely experienced it multiple times, and it keeps you humble, because all you can do is look back and say, that's all God. It's just nothing good in me, and I would have been gone, probably dead now if it was up to me, and if I made my own decisions. But that's all God, for real.
Absolutely, man. So I have to ask you this, bro. Like, you've gotten some really dope opportunities this year. Being on tour with Thizzle, working with KB. On the Tempo tour and all of that stuff, man. How has your past 12 to 18 months been, man? With all those things happening for you?
Yeah. So when I put my last EP out, the 1994 Until, that's when I first kind of really started showing my versatility. I was singing on songs. I was rapping. Rapping in different cadences, different types of beats: neo, soul, hip hop, trap, pop, hip hop cycles. And so a lot of people started realizing, like, wow, he is versatile. He could probably fit this track or this track. And so what happened? I started having lots of people and other artists contact me for features, and I was so hungry. I was so hungry at the time that I would do, especially if it was like artists that I knew and artists that I've heard their music and stuff, and I knew they had some type of following or fan base, and that it would benefit me in some way. I was doing all of them, and I would do my best to kill it, at the end of the day, to kill the feature, and not to kill the artist on the feature, but to give the song what it needed to be enhanced. And what happened was, a lot of these artists who were releasing these features with me, a lot of people were hearing them, their fans, and then they would also become my fans. And so my fan base just kind of grew over time from a lot of those features. But with Thizzle, I knew Thizzle from like real early in my career because we were being recruited to the same management company right after my first mixtape drop. And so we met early. But over time, we just kind of built our relationship, seeing each other's shows and stuff. And when my EP dropped, he listened to it on the way to one of his shows. And he told me about it when he saw me at, I want to say it might have been South by or Flavor Fest or something. But he told me about it. He was like, man, I like the project all the way through. He was like, I rock with you, dog. And then he ended up taking me on tour. People were telling him, like, don't take me on tour. That I've heard this and that about him. And he does it. And, you know, people try to like deter that relationship. I don't know what was going on, but he had. I mean, he's just one of the realest people I know. Like, because he didn't care what other people said. Like I know when I first got started rapping, there was a show I did in Miami like a long time ago, and I just wasn't the best performer yet, and I didn't have the best show. I didn't have the best crowd control, and so the guy who put on the show, when Thizzle was getting ready to go on this tour, keep in mind, it's like 2 years later, he's like, I saw him perform. He's not a good performer. You don't need to break. And Thizzle didn't listen to none of it. He was like, I love his music. I love his heart. I want to give him, you know, I want to give him some shine, and I want to give him an opportunity for people to discover him. And so Thizzle was really the first person one of the first big artists who posted my EP, who took me on my first major tour. Like, so I owe a lot to Thizzle and he knows that. He knows that I always honor and respect him for sure. And KB, same thing. Like, it's just KB. I met him early in my career. He saw this Cypher video I did. This Second Chance was in when I was in Florida. I was just on the move early in my career because I was so hungry, and so there was no telling who would see me and where they would see me. And so it was literally like that. And we just built our relationship over time. I grinded. I kept putting out music, and you know, it was just something that happened organically. And so the last 12 to 18 months, it's been all just growth and building relationships one by one with different people, and it all feels like it was all kind of mounting up to this point for this release, because now I have so many relationships that I'm dropping this album independently, but I got relationships at radio, I got relationships with DJ. Like, I met you at what, Flavor Fest or South by?
Legacy.
I didn't really know.
Legacy.
And Legacy, that's right.
Legacy.
And that was where Thizzle told me about the album too.
Yeah.
But now, like, you see, I just walked up to you and just introduced myself, and I just try to build relationships, like, you know. And so that's what I've done. I built so many relationships over the years, and I thought it got to a point where I thought it was pointless after a while, because it's like, you know what I'm saying? Like, I don't care about trying to build all these relationships, this and that. But over time, you realize, like, those one by one, like, just building one person at a time and getting to know people and care for them and actually, you know, building relationships with them, it really matters, you know, in the bigger scheme of things. So now that I'm ready to put my debut album out, there's a lot more people who care, and there's a lot more people who know me and care about me as tied to person instead of just tied to artists. And so, you know, but yeah, it's been crazy, man. The last year and a half has been crazy. Been a lot of momentum, a lot of growth, and I've never slowed down and stopped working. I've continuously tried to hone my craft and to grow in my understanding of the word and everything. So it's all just kind of culminating now, I would say.
Yeah, you know, you dropped this joint suddenly, man.
Right.
What made you kind of take that approach as opposed to a more of a rollout, particularly with this being your first project, man? Right. Or your first official album, I should say, not first project, but you know what I mean.
Yeah. First of all, I think that people have got to. I don't want to say they have to, but I think it would be wise to not follow previous trends, but to set new ones. And not to say that what I've done is a new trend, but I think there was a lot of people who I told about my idea of how I was going to roll the album out, and they were like, it's cool, but if you say you put your heart and soul into this project like you say you did, you need to do this and that, you should do it like this, roll out with a pre-order in this many weeks. And I was just like, but I talked to God. And I asked him how to do this, and this was the blueprint that he showed me. Like, I disappeared off social media for 3 months because I was in my room writing 12 hours a day. and I put my heart and soul in this, and my whole goal was I want to get this out as soon as possible so that whoever hears this may be inspired or encouraged or may experience life change, because you never know if their last day could be tomorrow or the day that they hear it, and you never know what kind of experience they could have. And so my whole mindset going in was I got to get this out ASAP. I need to finish this. I need to put everything I can into this and get it out as quickly as possible. And so once I decided to do that, it helped, because there was already an anticipation for my debut project, and nobody knew what was going to happen. Was I going to sign with somebody? Were they going to sell me out? Was I going to go mainstream? Was I just going to stop rapping and disappear for 5 years, like you said? Like, what was going to happen? So a lot of people were already wondering, like, what happened to Ty? He's been gone for 2-3 months off social media. I had a lot going on in my life as well, so it was really good for me to unplug. But when I came back and I announced the cover art, and the cover art was fire. Shout out to Eric Flacco, man. He really did his thing. I gave him a vision for the cover art, and he couldn't have done it any more perfectly to my desire, at least. And so once I dropped the cover art, you know, it started going viral in our community, at least, and maybe a little bit outside of it. But I will say, one of the things that I did that I had as part of my marketing plan was I sent it out to a lot of my artist friends and to DJs and to radio a week early, or probably 5-6 days early for early streaming. And so what happened was, a lot of these artists, they're already incentivized to share it once it drops, not just because they're my friend or they know of my music, they like my music, but because I incentivized them. Like, I was like, y'all want to hear the album early? Here it is. You know, only thing I ask, if you like it, share it when it drops. If you don't like it, don't worry about sharing it. But it was all organic, man. I'm just trusting the power of word of mouth and the power of the product, because I believe the product is good enough to where when the people hear it, they'll want to share it with their friends. I don't feel like I need to do all the week-long rollout. And it's deeper than that as well, but that's kind of the surface of it. Like, it's just, to me, this is all about the music, and I think that the people will share the music if they like it. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I think you definitely have that. There's definitely that ability, given how easy it is for people to even build their own platforms now, with not just stuff like, you know, what I've been doing with podcasting, but with streaming and playlists and all of that kind of stuff, bro. Like, you know, your music can get around real quick with the right relationships. You know what I mean? Like,
absolutely.
You know, so I did want to ask you about this, bro. I know, I think it was probably the beginning of last year, 2016. You and Young Noah had signed to the company that basically manages the Newsboys, and they were starting a hip hop division and all of that. And is that still like going?
Nah, so that actually happened in 2015. That's what I was talking about earlier. But so we signed to them as a management deal in early 2015. I want to say it was like April. They didn't announce it. They probably didn't announce it till what, like the very beginning of 2016.
Yeah, that's what it was. Yeah.
So, but what happened was, after they announced it, there was only a few months that went by before we were already done working. It's just that we never made like a final announcement. You know, and it's nothing against those guys or anybody who was affiliated with the situation, because, you know, they're very good at what they do, but they were so time consumed with the artists that they already had, and all their artists were already, you know, popping. They were doing their own things, and so, you know, we were a project, myself and Young Noah, because, you know, it takes time, especially for hip hop artists who are, you know, Christian artists for sure. You know, it takes time to build that, and you know, there has to be a consistency with the product and everything. And so it was taking a lot of time, and it just, you know, it didn't work out, but that's okay. So now I'm independent. Actually, just filled and locked my new, and I'll release those details soon as well. But yeah, man, it's no hard feelings, and they did a lot for me in my career. I feel like, and you know, even Chris, who was leading the thing, me and him are still good friends, and he still does a lot for me. So, you know, it's no hard feelings, but yeah, that didn't work out.
Man, I'm gonna tell you something, bro. Every successful artist in this game got stuff like that didn't work out, bro. You know what I
Right.
mean? Like it's a. I mean, I had a I had this is this is when I was first starting Wado Radio, maybe like a year or two in. I was signed to
Yeah.
a management company, but it was it was basically an all Christian hip hop management company though. So it was like me, it was like Corey Red and Precise. Well, not Precise, but
Yeah.
Corey Red as a solo artist. The Frontliners, I don't know if you remember them or not, but that was Witt's group. That was the group Witt was in. Like all of us were signed,
Yeah.
and the company just ended like a year after. And it was like there was
wow.
good stuff happening. You know what I mean? Like,
Right.
award nominations. There was touring. I mean, everybody's stuff
Right.
was, but it just stuff happens, man. So that's a good perspective, though. Definitely a good perspective.
Sure. I mean, it's all in God's hands. A lot of stuff like that. I know many stories from artists, like you say, who've just had, experiences that didn't work with label and management, and it's just like, when it's done, it's just like pick it up and keep moving. Just keep grinding, keep grinding.
Yeah, it's all you can do.
Forward.
Yeah,
right.
It's really all you can do, bro.
Sure.
It's definitely all you can do, man. Let me ask you this, because you've been around this thing long enough now. I think you probably have an opinion, man. What is your thoughts? As a young artist, what is your thoughts in this whole Christian hip hop space, man? Just with everything going on right now.
Yeah. Man, that's a complex question. And I think that I think that I could do my best to answer with the wisdom that I do have, but at the end of the day, I'm not the be all say all on this, so I don't want anybody
it's no right or wrong, bro. It's just
right. Just dialogue.
Just dialogue, bro.
Sure. I think something that I've been really starting to clear up as I've been looking deeper into it lately, because for one, I want to go ahead and before I say anything, I want to show major respect and honor to everyone who came before me in the Christian hip hop industry.
Yeah.
And every Christian artist who's done hip hop over the last 20 to 30 years, who's given a platform for people like myself, I want to show honor, respect, love, and at the end of the day, I want them to know that I appreciate everything they've done to trailblaze the path for artists like myself. With that being said, I think today, and I think things have changed over the last 3 to 5 years versus where they were 10 to 20 years ago, and not just because of what, the stuff that happened with Lecrae and Reach. I think part of the problem that happened was, and I'm just go ahead and share this, I feel like, so when Lecrae made his come up, when he really started becoming successful, I think a lot of his success came from the Christian industry and the gospel industry. And now the Christian industry, when I say that, I'm referring to more so the powerhouse Christian industry, as in rock music, worship music, pop music, the ones with radio stations and big tours, the ones who started adapting his music and then bringing him on tours and this and that. So what happens is now he's blowing up in that circuit. All of a sudden, gospel gets a hold of his music, and now he has the support of all Christian hip-hop fans, not just some, but all Christian hip-hop fans. Now you bring in the big powerhouse Christian industry and the big powerhouse gospel industry, and all of a sudden, you have a very successful artist. He just transcended 3 genres in a sense. And so what it looks like to the everyday Christian rapper is that there's this big Christian hip-hop fan base, and it's just wide open for me to come in and to be just as successful as Lecrae. You know what I mean?
Yep.
And so what happened was when Lecrae started kind of disassociating from the Christian industry, which I don't think it was necessarily a bad thing, and I'll get to that. But I think once he started kind of disassociating, I think what happened was the Christian industry said, well, you know what? We'll disassociate in a sense too, or at least to an extent. They haven't completely disassociated, but they used to be way more cahoots with Lecrae and Reach and all of them. And same thing with gospel, like the whole Christian rap and gospel industry that's kind of over. And part of it goes back further than Lecrae, with previous instances that happened that where gospel kind of lost trust in Christian hip hop, although they don't really have too much room to be mad at artists for making mistakes. But that's in the past. But what I will say is, I believe that today, as in 2017, a Christian who is making hip hop music, I think that we have got to get to the point where, but like once again, I don't want to say we have to, but I think it would be wise to get to the point where we realize that our home is in hip hop, and that it's not in the Christian industry and it's not in the gospel industry, and that Christian hip hop, the subgenre, is a launching platform, and that anytime there is a Christian artist whose music has the ability to do well in hip hop, that Christian hip hop should be the launching platform that gives them that springboard into the world stage. Because at the end of the day, our mission as Christian hip hop artists is to evangelize into the world. You know what I mean, with our music, and whether or not you look at it like that, like at the end of the day, our mission as Christians is to do that. You know what I mean? And so when I look at artists who are Christian who do hip hop, and you look at what's happening now, you look at Chance the Rapper, who has very, very overarching religious themes throughout his whole music. And even though some of his music, it may not be fully developed in maturity of what a lot of Christians think it should be, he's still opening up a lot of doors because of the religious tones he's using, and the fact that he's setting all type of records, winning Grammys. You look at Lecrae. Lecrae has a top 10 record in mainstream hip hop radio called Bless. And people may say, well, it's got the Ty Dolla $ign feature. It don't matter. It's the content. You look at Kendrick, who just dropped the whole album with the main overarching theme being disobedience towards God and the consequences that come with that, and returning to not being disobedient. At the end of the day, so it's becoming more and more accepted if big if here, if your music is dope enough to compete. If your product is good enough to sit in that place and to have a space there, then it doesn't become as much important as what your content is, because it's already becoming more and more accepted already in the mainstream. There's kind of a shift going on in hip hop culture. And if you look at the fact that hip hop is the most successful genre right now in the world, so if you look at the Billboard Top 10 and the Hot 100, it's constantly being taken over by new hip hop songs. There'll be a pop song in there here and there, but it's never been like this. It's never been like this. And I'm not saying that should be our goal, is to get top 10, but what I am saying is hip hop is the most thriving genre in the world right now. And that the reason that is because people love hip hop, and it's becoming more and more mainstream, and more people who didn't used to listen to hip hop are listening to it now. So this is the perfect chance for Christian evangelists, Christian missionaries who love hip hop, who grew up doing hip hop, and who have the gifting to do hip hop, to go into the world and to, at the end of the day, use their music to bring souls home to the kingdom. It's not like we've changed the mission. It's just the formatting has changed for the way that we should approach it. And so I know that was a long, drawn-out answer, but at the end of the day, I feel like that my opinion is that our home as Christians who do hip-hop is in the hip-hop industry, and I feel like Christian hip-hop, the subgenre, because it was never able to fully become a full blast genre, because there just wasn't enough fans. We thought there was, but what the coach say? They are who we thought they were. See, we thought there was this big fan base for Christian hip hop, but there just wasn't. It was coming from Christian and gospel, and at the end of the day, we've got to create new Christian hip hop fans, the hip hop fans who like our Christian content, and so that's kind of deep and maybe a little too far, but that's just where I'm at with it right now. So.
Yeah, I think. I mean, it's a lot of stuff I could comment on that, but I think as far as the fan base, I do think if I do think, and I actually promoted some of these shows, so I kind of have a different vantage point than some people. But I feel like if the Unashamed tour would have continued, that definitely would have grown the quote unquote Christian hip hop fan base. But I also think we needed more tours like that. And I think eventually you would have had, like, if so for instance, if Unashamed tour would have kept going, then God Over Money is doing their tour right now. You know, Thizzle had a tour. Like, if you would have had multiple tours that maybe weren't as big as the Unashamed tour, but would have continued in that space, then I think you would have seen even more money being invested into things like Engine and Hot 95.9 and that
very,
kind of
very
stuff.
true.
You know what I mean?
Very true.
So I feel like too, like you said something about the gospel music industry. Like, I feel like the gospel music industry actually, from my vantage point, I actually think this is the most open to Christian hip hop they've ever been. Personally.
Now, when you say that they're more open to Christian hip hop, do you mean like that they're open to promoting and putting Christian hip hop on their radio stations and helping us become as successful as the artists who are in the gospel industry, or do you mean that they're open to listening to it and giving it to their kids? Like, what do you mean by they're open to it?
Oh, putting it on the radio, bro. Absolutely. I've had. I mean, my show airs and is aired on several gospel stations for years, but aside from that, like, that's been a specialty show. Like, I've had conversations with. I mean, I'm trying to say this in a way that it won't give away who it is. But I've had conversations with very important people in that community about, they've asked me for, like, yo, give me some artists, give me some music. Like, they're trying to find songs that they can ease into that format that their existing fans won't totally be like, this is horrible. Like, I get this, but at the same time, it's still hip hop. They've never been willing to do that. Like, never. Even back when The Truth was touring with Kurt Franklin, it was him. It wasn't nobody else. It was him. It was him and maybe BBJ before that. That's it. You know what I mean? They're a lot more open to it now. You know what I mean? So I mean, I do think you're right though in the fact that we still haven't really found a home. You know what I mean? Right. And I mean,
and that's why I didn't want to make it come off. I was saying our home is hip hop, but I just meant doing hip hop as a Christian. You know, whether it's Christian hip hop or in the hip hop industry, that our home shouldn't be outside of that, but we could definitely, you know, still draw an impact from other genres. So I didn't want to come off like I was saying hip hop is our only home. But yeah, you can go ahead.
I don't have a problem with hip hop being our home. I think the problem that we haven't figured out yet is if the mission is really truly evangelism, how to do that effectively if that's our home.
Gotcha.
You know what I mean? Like, I think that's the, you know, I think that's the thing, you know. I mean, some people, it's not evangelism anymore though. You know what I mean? Like, and some I mean, listen, some guys, newer artists in your I would say like age group that's coming in with you, it's not even a matter of it being anymore. It's just, I'm just trying to make good music and, you know, vibe, and that's what it is. And I don't think there's anything wrong with that either.
I think everybody has some type of underlying desire to see souls saved, though, if they're a Christian with whatever their work is. So, but I agree with you. Think so? The tone and the I would maybe I'm being naive, but I would think that
I think maybe they want to see souls saved, but they don't feel a responsibility that they got to be the one that helped get the soul saved.
Right. Yeah, I could see that. I mean, I could definitely see that for sure. I mean, and I'm sure it definitely happens. I think that might be an issue of maturity, though.
Yeah.
Possibly.
Yeah.
Because to me, at the end of the day, if you really have just experienced the grace of God God in a way that you say you do, how could you not want to show that grace to others? And like I said, once again, I may be being naive, but there's got to be something inside of every artist who claims to be a Christian to have some type of responsibility to at least inspire or encourage or do something, of godly value with their music. But like I said, I could be naive though, for real. Like that could be possible that's going on.
Yeah, I definitely feel you on that, bro. I mean, it's tough, man, because I always think back to when I first got into Christian hip hop. It was different because the top artists all championed evangelism and discipleship. So it was like,
right.
You know what I mean? It was like, even if you weren't thinking about it, you were at least forced to have an opinion and think about it.
Right.
And I think most people who were influenced by that became a part of you doing this to include this or for this specific reason. And I think now, because that's not as prominent, I think a lot of newer artists that, like, say for instance, if I'm 22 and I've been listening to Christian rap the last 3 years, and that's what has got me into this, I'm not necessarily forced with as in your face of I have to have an opinion on that. I could just say, you know what, man, like I'm gonna just make music and that's it. You know?
Yeah. I feel that.
So I don't know, brother. I don't know, man.
I think it's something that's complicated that at the end of the day we still all kind of working through it. But I think at the end of the day that, Christians in hip hop are this is a very prime time for their music to be used to reach, whether it be somebody who listens to Christian hip hop or doesn't. Like if you have good content and product, hip hop is so popular right now that I think this is just the perfect prime time to reach people with hip hop music for sure.
Yeah, I actually think there's opportunities everywhere. I think there's still some opportunities in CCM. Like, it's like you see a Derek Minor going on Rock and Worship Roadshow.
Very true.
Yeah, you know what I mean? Like, so I definitely think you have that. You even have CCM labels. I mean, look, man, they put a lot of money behind NF and Social Club and Stephen Malcolm. You know what I mean? Like, they're getting opportunities.
Mm-hmm.
But then, I mean, how can you not see what Lecrae is doing and saying, man, like, there's a little bit of space for us over there too. You know what I mean? So,
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I agree for sure.
Yeah, that's good, man. What you got cooking the rest of this year, man? I mean, obviously, the by the time everybody's hearing this, the project is out, so that's out right now. But what's your plans for the next 6-7 months, bro?
I want to do an independent tour off of this album. I want to try to get 100 to 200 people in my top cities and get them to come out and do small venues and have a good time and perform. But I also want to I can't. Yeah, I got some couple things that I'm working on, some business moves and some different things that I'm working on that I can't discuss just yet. But what I will say is my goal right now is to do everything in my power to make sure that this music is heard by as many people, as they can hear it. And I think that, right now that's just the only thing that's really at the priority of my mind is I just put so much into this album and I just want it to, I want it to be heard, and I'm believing that, I'm believing in the power of the music and that people will share it. So I might go lay low for a minute and kind of just, I might go do Bible studies and just go do, I might just go be a missionary and quit rap. I don't know. I done put this project, I feel like if this is my last project, I'm good. I don't know. I just want to let this music ride. That's all I'm really focused on.
Hey, listen, so on everything, bro, I do want to say this, man. You put a heck of a lot into this project, bro.
Yeah.
Like when I was listening to this, I was like, man, this dude really, really put a lot. Because I was not expecting all of the the autobiographical stuff, and you know, and too, let me share this with you too. The version that you sent me, I didn't see the features, so.
Oh, okay.
You know what I mean? So, you know, like I knew at the end of the first track, because you mentioned Jay Monty's name, so I knew that was him. And you know, I just looked at the track listing, and I was like, I thought that was Keyshawn Furlow, but I wasn't 100%, you know, because I knew y'all were cool. But I mean, bro, you put a lot into this, man. You put a lot into it, bro.
No, I appreciate that. So that was the biggest thing for me, was I knew that in the process of making it, that, you know, a lot of people didn't know what I was doing, especially like my family members. So I'm locked up in my room all day, not talking to anybody, kind of isolated friends, wondering why I'm not answering the phone and stuff. But I was like, I promise it's for a good reason. And that when y'all hear the project, y'all see why I really dedicated myself to this. And one of the things I want to do is challenge other artists to take the craft, to care more about the craft, and to not just put anything together, to really take your time. If you know, if other artists who are real successful, who put their all into their albums, do it, you know, why should we not? Why should we not do all the more to make sure that our music is in the best form to reach the most people and be the most effective possible? So I appreciate that. I appreciate you for noticing that, because I really did. Like, if my friends would tell you, like, I almost, I feel like I almost died making the project, because I was just so depleted and so discouraged and depressed at many times throughout the process of this. But God would always hit me with the right encouragement to keep me going, with the right, you know. And so I appreciate you for noticing that, because that was very true.
Oh man, absolutely, bro, man. Ty, I appreciate you, man. I was glad we was able to do this, bro, and hopefully I'll see you. You gonna be at Legacy this year?
Man, good question. I definitely want to be. I plan on it.
I got you.
You know, I don't know what's gonna happen, but I definitely plan on it for sure.
That's a whole bunch. I'm
not performing. I know that, but I definitely want to be there.
Well, a whole bunch of things start happening when you put an album out, man. So you know, you may not even be available then. So I feel you.
Hey, this truth be told, I might not be here. It's no telling what will happen, man. And God might just call me home, and I'll just go gladly on to glory. This is pure. I don't know. You never know, man.
Oh man, hilarious, man. Appreciate you, bro.
Yeah, appreciate you as well, brother. I'm very honored to be to have this opportunity for.
Absolutely.
On the way to radio